Welcome, track and field fans, to the Let'sRun.com Track Talk podcast, the best track talk show in the world. We hope you are pumped for this one as we're recording this one live from Tokyo, where we'll be recapping the highs and the lows of the first half of the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, with the focus on tonight's action where Courtney Frerichs has become an Olympic silver medalist. She's got the Olympic silver. Emma Coburn does not, nor does Noah Lyles. Kenya is once again king of the men's 800 as former UTEP star Manuel Korir leads a Kenyan 1-2 sweep. Emma Coburn sadly bombs, but makes Rojo $20.
$10. I got odds on that bet, Robert. I don't want to shortchange myself here.
But she wasn't the only one that had a disastrous night. Nigel Amos next to last. If you think that's bad, Clayton Murphy was DFL. Folks, welcome to the show. Let'sRun.com co-founder Robert Johnson, Jonathan Galt here, who may have something life-changing this week, but I'm not allowed to tell you what it is. John and I are a little bit angry with each other. It's been close quarters and stuff. I'm
not angry with you, Robert. I
I
like covering the Olympics.
Thank you, John. It's been pretty fun. We need a little bit more sleep. We're going to start getting sleep because the morning sessions are going to end after tomorrow. We have Weldon Johnson in the secondary East Coast headquarters of Connecticut. But it's been a great Olympics. Folks, first of all, if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't heard already 6 previous Olympic podcasts from Tokyo, then that's on you because you obviously love track and field. You listen to our weekly podcast. So thank you for that. We do appreciate it. But how have you not become a Let'sRun.com VIP supporting club member? Because I know you buy fast food. It's like $10. Starbucks, same thing. You can't support independent journalism. You can't support yours truly. Go to Let'sRun.com/subscribe. Sign up now. You would be getting daily breakdowns from Tokyo. We really appreciate it. So please do that now. Let'sRun.com/subscribe. You would have heard the inside scoop of how I was almost killed. All of that. What have they missed out on, Weldon?
They missed a lot. I mean, 5 days of track and field. I thought the shows were going to be short. They've been at least an hour every day. Video shows, podcast, a lot of insider access. Are you guys like the only running journalist actually in Tokyo talking to athletes and stuff? Like American running journalists? I know that's a small number of people, but that's the other beauty. The Olympics doesn't allow video or audio to be released. So the only way to hear what athletes are saying, what Cole Hawker's saying. Oh, interesting. I led with Cole Hawker. A thing Mo. City McLaughlin. You got to talk to someone who's there, and that's you guys. So I've really enjoyed it, getting the inside of what's it like in the stadium. I mean, watching the coverage on TV is great. We can see the action tremendously, but the flavor, it's not possible.
Thank you, Weldon, because Jonathan, I don't know. I mean, Jonathan is supposed to be my employee, but it's like he's the CEO and he orders me down there, and I will talk to everybody. And John makes jokes with other journalists about me. I seriously, it bothers me. Like Beatrice Chepkoech could go through the mix zone, no one would talk to her. Hyven King, we wouldn't have known. I just got a nugget of wisdom from her just right now after winning the bronze medal.
I was talking to the Americans, Robert. It's not like you're there talking to these other athletes and I'm not doing anything. I'm talking to the Americans when they come through. What was the joke I made the other day, Weldon? That if someone breaks a national record, Robert will talk to them. I mean, that was the case again tonight. Like a bunch of national records. Robert's like, we're about to start the podcast. He's like, I haven't talked about the Australian record in the women's 1500 prelims by Jessica Hull. I'm like, Robert, it's okay if you don't mention every single national record holder that you spoke to.
Genevieve Lalonde, we love you of Canada. She broke it today by 0.24. There was also a Serbian woman, I think, that got a national record in 6. It was amazing. I talked to you at them all.
Well, Robert, no, the woman that you should, first of all, there's Nozomi Tanaka. She would set her second Japanese record of the Olympics tonight in the women's 1500 prelims. But I think Rojo's favorite runner award, the woman who set the most national records at this Olympics, I think it is Sarah Kuivisto of Finland. She set 2 national records in the first 2 rounds of the 800 meters, and she set 2 national records in the first 2 rounds of the 1500 meters. Unfortunately, the Finnish records aren't that fast, so she didn't make the final in either. but I'm giving her the Rojo Award for most national records.
But John didn't tell me this, and I didn't interview her. And she's probably, I'll be canceled. She's probably attractive if she's from Finland. I could have interviewed her and said, hey, are you single? Jonathan needs a woman.
Oh my God.
Anyways.
You just got canceled for that comment. Robert, your boy Bill Spalding mentioned the 4 finished records. Nothing gets by that guy.
We love you, Bill. By the way, at some point in this show, John and I I had not seen the 800 video from start to finish. I still haven't seen a full replay because tactics in a 145 race play a huge role. We were trying to find a video where we could do it. I turned on my VPN. I saw some NBC YouTube highlights, and they showed about 500 or 600 meters of the race. So we missed a lot of the first lap and a half, which I would like to see. But y'all been commenting about how bad the commentating is. Bill is a pro, but I'm going to send him a text because I had heard some rumors that Alicia Montano was bad, but I didn't expect her to be bad on the 800 broadcast. But I will play the audio clip of that. What she said in the first 100 meters of that race was so bad. It's like, I just can't believe it.
Robert, we don't need to go into the audio of the commentator. It's just not necessary. The thing that, well, now of course I'll go there. I wanted to see Otto Bolden talk about the 200, and you can't find it. Like, he'll be on tape delay tonight in NBC.
Wait, that's what they do? They just tape delay like the sprint finals? Or you can watch it live, but you can't watch it with the top commentators?
Yeah, there's separate announcing crews. So It's either Peacock in the morning, USA Network in the afternoon, usually. One day it was CNBC. That's Bill Spalding, Tim Hutchings, Alicia Montano, and Michelle Carter. That's the crew. I like my Tim Hutchings. I like my Bill Spalding. So that's fine. But then you have a separate crew. I haven't heard Kara Goucher yet, but that's the normal NBC crew. Lee Diffie, Otto Bolden, Sonia Richards, who's very good. Otto, I love. So, but now at night, sometimes, like for the 400-meter hurdles, they have them on live. They'll pipe them in on the prime time broadcast, but otherwise they show them taped. So it's kind of hard to get what you want here. But hey, it's the Olympics. You can watch it all somewhere. Sometimes it's hard to figure it out. We've got a viewing guide every day on letsrun.com on the homepage, so be sure to check that out. But guys, enough back talk. Let's get to the action.
Okay.
I'm starting with the women's steeplechase because a lot of times I think we should start with like stuff that Robert, back off the mic, a little echo. Well, I'll turn off the echo cancellation maybe, but a lot of times, I don't know, this race was shocking to me. I've been shocked a few times at this Olympics. The Karsten Woolholm 45.9. The Sydney race last night didn't do it for me because I'm starting to think this track might be a little bit juiced. But I did not expect what we saw in this steeplechase. It was crazy. It was beautiful. It was gutsy. It didn't result in a gold. But Courtney Frerichs, with a mile to go, just goes to the front, pushes the pace, starts running 70-second laps, 69-second laps. She gaps the field. I mean, breaks them within 2 laps. Peruth Chemitai of Uganda tries to stay with her. She's probably 10, 15 yards back, 600 to go. And then it's just a question, can she hold on? And she looked good. They showed Courtney right before the bell. She looks at the screen. I'm like, okay, she's kind of measured. She's not all out. She's still looking at the screen. And then real quickly, it sort of fell apart. And then I'm like, okay, she's still got this. She's still going to hold on. She held on for the silver, but gutsy as hell.
One of the gutsiest races I've ever seen by an American. I mean, how many times do you have an American leading a distance final at the Olympics at any point in the race? And to do it like this with a huge move, with a mile to go in the race, and to break pretty much everyone except the eventual champion, Peruth Chemitai. I mean, I just have so much respect for what Courtney Frerichs did tonight. And with 600 to go, I was convinced she was going to win gold. I was like, this is huge. She's going to surpass what Emma Coburn did, winning the world title in 2017. She's going to have Olympic gold in the world and the American record. But at the bell, my concern was that gap. She really hadn't grown it much over Chemitai. I think it was about 7 meters, and it had stuck around that same distance pretty much the whole time. when you have a gap like that and it's not growing, it's kind of a sign that the person in second still has something left. And we saw that over the last lap. All congrats to Perth Chemitai. 9:01 Ugandan record, big personal best.
Frerichs was amazing, as I just put up as a graphic. This race would make Steve Prefontaine proud. She went for broke, and it's a lot of times that cost you a medal. This time she hung on for the silver. John said she thought she was going to win the gold. I was doing the splits. The one mistake I've made in Tokyo is I didn't bring. It's hard to do a damn split on an Apple Watch. I didn't bring my coaching watch because I love to get splits, and I love the steeple splits because the splits are a little bit off because it's not quite 400 meters. But folks, again, if you're a top woman, you want to win a medal, I am an expert at coaching people to the 8:45 to 9-minute range. Normally men, but I can coach women too. But 72-second laps is right at normally 9:03. In this case, it would have been 9:04 based from finish line to finish line based on what they ran the first 200 plus. But actually, the splits are in another room. But she was going like 70. I think she went 68. Well, did you have them? I had sent them to you at one point.
Well, I was doing just the 400 splits off the screen, which aren't at the bell. Somehow they have like technology. They have splits for every 100 meters. So I think, I mean, I can pull those up, but it was essentially, they were all 70 points and then a 69 in there. And the last one was a 74.
Okay, so 70 is sick. I mean, that's 8:48 pace, 8:49 pace. And then she was going 77. She had a 68. I'm like, this is incredible. John says at 600, he thought she was going to win. At 600 with me, I thought, oh my God, did she miscount the laps? It crossed my mind that she was going so fast that she had the lap number wrong. So there was a slight, but then I was still making sure, even with 50 meters to go in that lap, I was like, okay, I think she knows there's another lap. But when she kept going without stopping at the lap, I was like, okay, she knows she's got it. And she admitted in the press conference afterwards and talking to John afterwards that she knew she had kind of put herself in the hurt box and the wheels fell off a little bit, but held on for the silver. And I mean, coming home, I was just like, don't pull a Jaeger, just get over the hurdle. And she did. And, much deserved silver medal.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting, Robert, like we don't really cheer in the press box for runners, but for this one, with the move that she made and with how hard she was working and like how much guts it took, I just didn't want to see her totally collapse and like full finish out of the medals. Like Chemitai, tons of credit to her. She went with the move. She got the gold, but I felt it would have been unfair if Frerichs, if she wipes out on one of those barriers, if she totally fades. So I was glad that she wound up in the medals. Well deserved silver.
Right. But this shouldn't have been that. Well, heading into USA's, Frerichs hadn't been running great. Let's look up her results from early in the year. It didn't seem like she'd been running great. She gets beat by Coburn pretty handily at USA's. And I kind of was like, how did this woman run 9 flat? How does she have the American record? Coburn is so much better than her. But after you talked to her in the prelims, John, I started to think, wow, maybe she's just peaking here. Like it seemed like she was very confident in the way things were going. So, but Coburn had almost broken 9 in Monaco, had given it a shot. As good as Frerichs was, I think it's pretty. I mean, she's gotten world silver before, but her getting silver today was pretty surprising, and almost getting the gold was very surprising. But I think in an absolute sense, what is more surprising is how bad Emma Coburn was. Well, it's the law of averages. If somebody's really good and somebody's really bad, it's the law of averages. One American was amazing, and one American who is so incredibly consistent was absolutely horrible. John, please get out your money, though. The sad thing is, I didn't see this coming this week, but I did apparently in the winter because Jonathan Galt and I on this very podcast made a bet, and I said she would not medal. You said she did, so it's time to pay up.
Yeah, I owe you $10. I don't have my wallet on me right now. It's over there.
And not 10 Japanese dollars because that's only $1.
Yeah.
By the way, we do have another bet on somebody else, though. I'm worried about losing that one. I forgot who it was.
You decided to take Hassan over Faith Kipyeagon in the 1500. And considering Kipyeagon just made running 3:56 in a semi look like a joke.
I did.
I feel pretty good about that one. Anyway, Coburn was awful tonight. We'll get to that in a minute. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about Frerichs because she was like very eager to credit all of her Bowerman family for this silver medal. She spoke about her last track workout, her last big workout before the Olympics. She had a stomach bug. She vomited on the track, and they had to call it. And she's like, I can't do this, And Shalane Flanagan, the Bowerman assistant coach, told her something similar happened to her ahead of the 2008 Olympics when Flanagan ended up winning the silver medal. Not to stress about it. Then Frerichs said she ended up doing the workout a couple of days later. She said when she was about to fly to Tokyo, she was feeling sick. And again, Shalane texted her, let her know, hey, you got this, get on the flight. And then today in the race, she felt like she was channeling Evan Jager. He was not in the Olympics. He hasn't finished the steeple for 3 years, but her race plan today was basically the same as what Evan Jager did in 2016, making a hard move with from a mile to go. So she was happy to have channeled him and his racing spirit. And then she said Shelby Houlihan was texting her this morning. Shelby is one of her best friends. She was saying, I know you can do it. So for Courtney, this was a big, it's been a rough summer for the Bowerman Track Club with the Shelby thing. And, this was a big silver medal for them tonight. Yeah,
it was a big silver medal. I mean, the Bowerman Track Club's been through a lot with Shelby Houlihan's ban. I mean, I can't imagine, I don't know, what's she thinking during this Olympics. But for those of you listening to the podcast, we're also doing this as a live video show. John, we have a comment being put up by this guy. Maybe he's foreign and can't pick up our great dynamic personalities. It says, these guys just seem to hate their jobs and each other. Is the other guy even listening? So is that me? I'm looking at stuff here, trying to gather some information, or is that Robert? We're gathering information. It is what? Oh, we're a little early today, this morning. It's only 1 a.m. there, and you guys are going 0 hours sleep. But we should be ranting, smiling, joking around.
We're having fun. We shouldn't make complaining about stuff. We normally have been recording the podcast literally at 2 or 3 a.m. And John and I have gotten, I used to think I thought with Weldon because it's like a twin thing, but it's just you're in close quarters, you're working a lot, we're not sleeping. We're going to start sleeping more. What was I looking down at I was looking at the comments, and someone said, it does not look like you guys have updated the Running Warehouse prediction contest with the men's 800. And
did someone actually comment that? Yes. Or are you, Robert's obsessed with this contest because he's leading it. As soon as he drops down in the standings after these remaining finals come, he's probably going to forget it and never mention it again.
Sergio, pause. Where are you from, Sergio?
Robert, check your mic. John's is working. But no, it is true.
I mean myself.
Sergio. I mean, I'm not a Spanish expert, but that's always how I've heard that name pronounced, Robert.
Sergio, where are you from? He's posted it. I've just updated the contest. That's what I was doing. I was looking down at my computer so I could update it.
And then he does the fist pump when he sees he's still in first place.
Well, I'm not in first place overall, but I'm getting closer.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Should we talk about Coburn here? By the way, we have a great relationship. If Robert isn't looking at the screen, it's because he's doing research or he's trying to pump his own ego with the prediction contest results. But Coburn, that was my big. Well, it wasn't a big bet. I thought you gave me great odds to medal.
Oh, I should be using my other camera.
And she didn't run well today. She essentially said her body shut down. Frerichs made a hard move in the middle of the race. Emma thought there would be something she'd be ready to respond to. I mean, she pointed out they came through 2K in Monaco a month ago in 6 flat, and she felt pretty good at that point. Tonight it was 6:05. She thought she'd be able to close off of this, and she just couldn't. I mean, she fell apart, and then the last lap, she fell, and then she got disqualified, I think, for stepping inside the rail. And look, credit to Emma Coburn. She was a total class act in the mix zone. She stood there for 15 minutes answering questions. I'm actually shocked. I felt bad that we kept asking her questions. If you get to 10 minutes after a race like that, I kind of just stop asking the athletes questions because you can tell they're devastated. Emma was very classy. She answered everything, but she basically just said, her body didn't respond. She didn't really know why. She thought her workouts had been going great. She said she was fitter than she was at the trials. It was just, she fell apart.
By the way, we have an update from the live viewer. Sergio is from Spain. It's got to be what time is it in Spain right now? It's probably 5 a.m.
No, it's 5 p.m. It's perfect time, Robert. You're going backwards.
Oh. He's excited and demanding that. He's in first place of the thousands of people.
Well, he's in first?
Yeah.
Oh, no wonder he wanted to know the.
Probably he's in
Wait,
first.
hold on. Is this your picks or his?
No, those are his.
Okay, I was like, because he picked Korir for the win. That's a good call. I'm shocked. Korir. I didn't think that many people would pick him. We'll get to Robert's boy, Nigel Amos, and his disaster.
And Sergio's gonna go into the lead even farther than the men's 5,000 when Couture, my least favorite 5,000 meter runner, wins it.
I picked Couture.
Well, I should have picked him. I don't pick people that I'm not going to say anything, Sergio. I'm not going to say anything.
You said it yesterday. If you listened to the podcast yesterday, Sergio, you know what he said. So, all right. Anything else on the steeple here? I mean, Purrier Chemitai. We should talk about this because the winner of the race. I know we are a few Americans here talking about the race, but the winner of the race is someone who had not broken 9:20 this year. Who, her personal best was 9:06 from 2017. She runs a 5-second personal best, or maybe I meant in a 6-second personal best to win the gold medal tonight. And look, if you watch the semifinals, you kind of knew, okay, she's a medal contender. She made it look very easy. Friend of Let'sRun.com, Chris Lear, pointed out she actually hurdles the water jump, which is not very common in the steeplechase.
What do you mean he pointed out? I noticed it.
Well, he's the one who told me about it. Anyway, and she shows up, and she said she had been injured earlier this year, but she trains in the top group in Uganda, coached by Adi Reuter, who he's also the coach of Joshua Cheptegei. He coached Halima Nakai to the gold medal in 2019. We found this information out because Robert does his exclusive interviews and, got this from her. So very surprising performance from her. And look, no one could have seen this coming into she didn't broken 9:20 all year. She got 8th in the Doha Diamond League. She was 5th in the Ethiopian trials. Now somehow she's the Olympic champion. It's just kind of crazy.
So I just put it up on Let's Run about this. John says we know that she was injured in the area. The only reason why we know is because I was the only journalist in the world that wanted to talk to her after her. I saw her hurdling the water jump. And it's very hard to hurdle the water jump without losing momentum. She can, and I would think, even for men, she does it fine. She doesn't lose momentum. Even Jessica Kraus, the German who I love to talk to because her English is so good, she's like, look, if you saw her in the prelim, she ran 9:12. She looks fantastic going over the water. You had to know that she was, probably in pretty good shape. Also, Kraus said that she was not surprised by Frerichs because she knows Frerichs is a proven championship runner. And they ran in the same heats together, and they went 1-2. And she's like, I could tell she was fit. So Kraus, who's gotten 2 medals, was not shocked at all by the performances. Kraus was 5th today. Good interview with her up on the website. But back to Chimichai, John. In one way, it's shocking because these are her Diamond League. In Rio, she went out in the first round. This is what her career Diamond League finishes are since then. 7th and 10th in 2017. 7th, 6th, and 7th in 2018. 3rd, 7th, and 10th in 2019. And then 8th in Doha this year. And now she's the world champion. Now, that's trying to make her look bad. On the plus side, she's extremely young. She just turned 22 in July. She won the World Junior Silver in 2018 when she also got 3rd in the Diamond League. So if you're a junior getting 3rd in the Diamond League, that's pretty good. Who knows what she would have done in 2020. The big thing, though, was this year she had not run fast. 8th in Doha. Then she runs the Ethiopian trials as a guest and is only 5th in 9:33. And that
was at sea level.
At sea level in good weather. And what I said was the key nugget to me was what's better now. She's like, my Achilles. They always say I have a tendon problem. They never say what tendon. I'm like, which tendon? And they point.
Yeah, seriously.
All the Africans. I have a tendon problem. So it was her right Achilles, I think. So she says that's better now. So injury. Same thing with Hyven King, the bronze medalist. I said, Hyven, you're a world champion in the past. You got the silver medal 5 years ago. Are you happy or sad with the bronze? She's like, I'm really happy with it. It's really hard to run well when you're hurt. My hamstring was bothering me. Also, I know there's a sizable contingent of people that think that Beatrice Chepkoech is dirty. Even Emma Coburn has basically insinuated that. You ask Emma Coburn, we asked Beatrice Chepkoech, why aren't you running better? What's going on? She's like, my hamstring is killing me. She said she had some interesting things to say after today's race. She said, I took a painkiller, to get through the prelims. I got through it, but it started hurting in the village. I knew I was pretty much screwed and was hoping just to finish. She thinks her fitness is good because Chepkoech is running 1440 road races, right? Like she tied the world record or something like that. She's a monster talent. She's like, I think I could break 9 right now just based off my base fitness, even though she can't do all her normal speed work. She's like, but if my body would just let me hurdle and compete without being injured. So she's hoping that gets better so she can run faster, like at pre-classic or something like that. But let's go back to this thing. How did Frerichs run so well? Coburn apparently has been in Coburn so bad. Someone had it up about where Frerichs is from. Missouri, hot and humid there. That could play a story. But I want to apologize to everybody because I am apparently responsible for Emma Coburn's terrible performance tonight. She told John, she's like, well, maybe it's because I'm a bigger runner and I don't do well in the humidity. And that's what I always say. The big runners don't do well in the heat. But I also say the steeplechase is short enough of an event that the heat doesn't really impact you. So I don't know.
Robert likes to cover all his bases, so he has an excuse either way.
But why is Emma coming up with this excuse if she did okay in Rio? Wasn't it hot and humid in Rio? Maybe not this humid.
It was not this humid, but it was in, I mean, the sun was out. It was a morning final in Rio.
Did she do anything to prepare for the heat? So many athletes did. I don't know if Emma did. So that's kind of one. Did you guys ask her that?
I didn't ask her that specifically. I mean, I think she felt prepared fitness wise. I don't know. She didn't really blame that as a reason. She didn't say anything about the conditions, and she was there for a while. She just basically said her body shut down. So.
Oh my gosh, I'm looking at the results. I'm going to apologize to my fellow Princeton alum, Lizzie Bird. 9:19 national record for Great Britain, John's country. I missed it. I didn't talk to her once in the mixed zone.
Robert, you're fired.
Oh, terrible.
All right. Shall we move on to the other distance final of the night, the men's 800 meters? Always a crazy race at the Olympics. And this one, I mean, winning time, 1:45.06 by Emmanuel Korir. That is not quick. It actually prompted a hilarious tweet from Isaiah Harris, the fourth placer at the U.S. Olympic trials in the 800.
I will put that up on the screen for the live people. I got to find that.
It was absolutely hilarious. So Isaiah apparently is a keen runner of the Let'sRun.com forums, and he found a post, which I will read here in its entirety. I would never accept a medal for 1:45. That's pathetic. That's not an Olympic performance in this day and age. No one deserves a medal. I'd be all for having minimum standards to get medals or an eye test where no medals are awarded if people aren't trying and are just out there for a hobby jog. So Isaiah took a screenshot of that post on the message board, and then next to it, he put a picture of a shirtless dude lying on his bed, just surrounded in a room full of garbage, which Robert will show on the screen. And essentially saying that's the guy who wrote this post. And then what I thought was even funnier was Fred Curley quoted this tweet and said, he said, who said this? And Isaiah responded, some 141 guy on Let's Run. So either Seb Coe or Nigel Amos, I guess, wrote that tweet.
Let's Run Nation, we love you. There's a subculture for us that Isaiah Harris loves. I mean, I love it that the sprinters are now getting into Let'sRun.com. But look at that photo, folks. If you're listening to us on the podcast version, we will link to that tweet. It's absolutely amazing. So
I think they can only, there we go. Show them the photo.
I got a point of order though. I mean, the guy's not in his basement, so this guy is doing pretty well for a Let's Run forum poster.
Wait, I thought all Let's Run forum posters made $100,000 a year, had a super hot white.
Wait, give a shout out to Isaiah
250,
Harris.
John.
People can follow him, John.
What's that, Robert?
Go to @Zay_800. Isaiah Harris. Apparently, is a good follow. So, anyways, men's 800. I really tactics. This is the one race where tactics do play a role.
Oh, you finally admit it, huh? 1500, no, but 800, yes.
But I didn't. I don't know. I don't know what I've only seen. The replay we've seen doesn't show the whole thing, but Korir was on the rail for the first lap, which was good. Korir did not look good in the prelim. He was pretty close to, I think he was not a qualifier, but, it's a very fine line between being not a qualifier and not making it. But if you watch him at the final, I mean, he's not a beautiful runner. This is not David Rudisha. This is a guy that's like pulling a Paul Radcliffe and
his head, so much head bobbing. And then I feel like he even accentuated it as he was crossing the line. And he was like, yes, I'm going to win the Olympic title.
So it wasn't Nigel Amos, but I did pick this guy to get the silver. And when everyone was handing the gold medal earlier in the summer, I always thought, like, okay,
wait. Who handed Nigel Amos the Olympic gold medal this summer? I think there was only one person I remember doing that, and he's sitting to my right.
I didn't mean Amos. When everyone was handing the gold medal to Donovan Brazier.
Oh, well, yeah, okay.
I kept saying, what is Amos and Korir up to? Why? Because they're faster than Donovan Brazier. We need to remember the talent level of Emmanuel Korir. He ran 142.05 in 2018. I mean, 2017, 143.10, 142.05 in 2018, 143.69 in 2019, and then 143.04 in Monaco. I forgot he did that. So, fast guy, big talent. Well, if Amos is going to screw it up, which he always does, then Korir's your champion. And that's what happened. Shocking. I did talk to Amos, probably the only person that talked to Amos in the mix zone. And I said, Amos, first of all, how do you feel? How disappointed are you? You've got the silver in 2018 as a teenager, 2012 as a teenager. You come up short, but yet again, he said, I'm not disappointed. I'm like, what? And he said, look at my leg. I got injured when I fell, So his quad was totally taped up. He said it's very hard to run with one quad. He's hoping to get recovered and do well at the Pre-Classic, which is in his new hometown of Eugene, Oregon, hoping to do Worlds next year, and then whatnot. He told me that he may not run Paris, but he told another lady today that he was going to run in Paris. So there you have it for Mr. Amos. But disappointing run for him for sure. But it wasn't tight. He was right there with 100 meters to go and just didn't have it.
Well, pretty much everyone was right there with 100 meters to go. But the interesting point about Korir here is we know he's good at the 800. But I talked to one of the Kenyan journalists in the mix zone. He made this point. He's like, look, this was a 145 race. Korir is a 44.2 400-meter runner. He was a world championship finalist in the 400 in 2019. If it's a slow race and it comes down to the last 200, why isn't the 44-second guy going to win? And this is how David Rudisha won his world title in 2015. Robert's theory is that these slower races actually help the 1500 runners.
Yes.
I don't buy that necessarily in this instance, and maybe I don't buy that anymore, because who was the winner? Korir, 400, 800 guy. Who was the bronze medalist? Patrick Dobek, a 400 hurdler who moved up to the 800. So I don't know if the Rojo theory holds weight anymore. And who's a 800, 1500 runner? Clayton Murphy, and he did awful. But that was more about his positioning, which I think we can get to. The silver medal here: Ferguson, Rotich, Chariot. Ferguson, Chariot, Rotich. Third place: Patrick Dobek, Robert's other boy.
I would like to go, but by the way, if you haven't seen the video I made of Dobek, he was brilliant again tactically, once again. And he was back on the rail, goes out, gets on the rail. He doesn't even bother for the first 100 meters. He's like going in line. It's like a Nick Simmons. He just runs on the rail. Where is he at the bell? Without leaving the rail, he's in third place. He's like, yep. I said, how does this guy, he admitted to me today, he'd run 1-800 in his life before January of this year. I said, how are you comfortable? He's like, it just comes naturally to me. So he's like, yeah, it was a risk to move up on the rail, but I thought it was worth taking. And then, he kicks in and gets the bronze medal. So kudos to him, for that. I would like to go back and watch Chariot, because Chariot was so good in the prelims. I wonder if he had run a better tactical race, if he would have beaten Korir. Korir seems to have been on the rail a lot in this race, probably saved a lot of ground. But as good as so I haven't seen Chariot's race, but Murphy appeared to be terrible. He was moving around a lot. And then, as John said, you can't be that far back in a 145 race. You're eighth place. With 200 meters to go, it's over.
He was ninth.
Excuse me.
With 150 to go, and you're just not going to be able to run down eight of the best guys in the world over the last 150. I mean, he was in lane 3 by the end of the turn. He finished in lane 4. He still thought with 30 meters to go he might be able to close. He did look like he was sort of kicking and maybe making up some ground, but then he saw it wasn't going to be in the medals and kind of just let up towards the end. Weldon, what did you make of all this?
I think the 400 long distance kicking thing is interesting, because I used to agree with Robert, but clearly the 400 faster guys did better in this one. But I think really it comes down to more positioning. All of these guys can kick. You need to be in a good spot. I mean, I'm looking at it here with 200 to go. Korir's in second place, perfectly positioned. He wins the race. Rotich is 0.5 back. So he had to make up a lot. And Murphy's another 0.3 behind that. At some point, you're just asking too much. I mean, maybe Murphy could have snuck up for a bronze, but he's not Sifan Hassan. It's very hard to win a race from that far back.
Yeah. What one point Murphy made, and this was an interesting one. He knew he wasn't in the right position through the race, but essentially he was saying, look, everyone was fighting for the same spot. Everyone wanted to be basically second or third right off the shoulder of the leader. And that's one of the realities of the 800 meters is we say, oh, tactically they didn't look great. And I didn't think Murphy was great tactically. But the problem is, it's not like you can just say, oh, I should have done this, this, and this, and I really, it would have been great. It's very, very hard to get that position. Like anyone who's out not second or third, they could say, oh, they won in a great position tactically. There's only so much real estate in an 800 meter pack. Someone's going to have to be in a bad position. So it's really hard. There was a lot of fighting, arm checking and stuff to get in position. Murphy could never get where he wanted to be. And at the bell, he was basically in lane 2 and it was 53 seconds. So he was at that point, I've kind of thought it was over for him because it was just, you're not going to be able to go wide on that turn. And he wasn't looking like he was going to hang on the inside and wait for the rail to open up.
I apologize, people, for apparently touching my nose. I'll mute myself when I'm not talking. But yeah, I'm looking at Murphy here. He's finishing out in lane 4. So one thing though that's different here is someone like Patrick Dobek or Dobey. I should have asked him, how do you say your name? I should have said, sir, I made a YouTube video about you. How do you say your name? But he's playing with house money. He's running for the bronze. He's running for a medal. Murphy's not running for a medal. He's running for the gold medal. And it's different. You position yourself tactically if you're trying to win, which you probably shouldn't. You should just think, I'm going to try to medal and see if I get lucky and win the gold. John, he had some interesting comments right to you afterwards about times and whatnot, which I haven't quite read. So you were kind of telling me when I was focusing on my work, it seemed fascinating. Why don't you share them with?
So yeah, there are a couple interesting things he said. One was about times. Look, he basically said the same thing that you said, Robert. Anything other than an Olympic gold medal, he was going to be upset tonight. That's what he came in for. And he said actually then at the end, he sort of corrected that and said, I don't know about anybody else. I do it for one thing. It's an Olympic medal. I give 2 shits about the American record, 2 shits about running 140. This is what I run for as a medal. And now I go pretty much over. He said over 5 since 2016. It's over 3 because 17, 19, and 21. He didn't end up medaling. And he had a disaster. This was better than his final in Doha in 2019. That was an absolute disaster for him. But for a guy who's looked so good in a couple of races, he looked amazing at the trials. He looked pretty good in his first 2 rounds in Tokyo. And for him to come up and finish last in the final again, that's rough. The other interesting thing he said to me, Robert, he was not happy that they let Nigel Amos into this race. Because he essentially was saying, look, everyone was fighting for the same position. 8 guys, already 8 guys trying to be in the lead or close to it. And 800 is going to be tough. With 9, it's even more difficult. And he was like, look, I don't know why they ran a 9-person 800 meter final. And I agree with him. I don't think Amos should have been in this race. No. But
that's fine.
Is it that much more difficult to get position 9 versus 8? I don't think that's what made the difference.
Oh my God!
It should have been 8 people.
I apologize to Clayton Murphy. I had not thought about this, and John didn't. I haven't had time to read the recap because we literally finished the work and hopped on this podcast. First of all, I'm happy they ran 9 in the final. You got a 9-lane track, run 9 in the goddamn final. I'm happy with that. But I hadn't thought about this. Amos, I wanted him in the final because I picked him in the running warehouse prediction contest. So some people think that I have, I saw Paul Turgot tonight, the great runner from Kenyan. He said, hey, Robert, how's your father? How's your father? In Kenya, it's all about who your father is. So my father once worked for a U.S. president, and I got Paul Turgot into the White House. So I pulled some connections. I called the president up, and I said, can you get Mr. Amos into the Olympic final?
Did you have George W.'s cell phone?
Don't say which president it was, John. We're going to anger some people.
Well, there's only a limited number. I think it's not that hard to look it up.
My father worked for Barack Obama and George Bush. Anyways.
As long as it wasn't Trump.
I was trying not to make this political, people. But I'm kidding about getting him into the final. But I did talk to Paul Turgot today anyways. That was the whole point of that story, me dropping that. But Amos should not have been in this final. Who should have been in the final was the other American, Isaiah Jewett. And if he was in the final, this race might have been totally different because Weldon doesn't want me to play the audio, but go back and listen to the U.S. broadcast. Those are the people that are in the U.S. And the craziest thing, the reason why I was going to mock Alicia Montana for her race call was the gun goes off and she said, "This is clearly going to be a fast race. It's a 2-lap race." Like I didn't know that an 800 was a 2-lap race, and it's the Olympic final. It's not going to be tactical. And the big question I had going into this race was, who is going to lead it? When Caster Semenya was in the races, we knew what was going to happen. When I'll think Mo's in the race, we know what's going to happen. When David Rudisha is in the race, we kind of know what's going to happen. I did not know who was going to run this race. Amos likes a fast pace. A fast pace would have been great for Murphy as too. It just makes it easier. You know what's going to happen. I just didn't know who was going to lead. And the answer was nobody was going to lead. Nobody wanted to push the pace. Everybody wanted a good position, but nobody wanted to be the sacrificial lamb because nobody in this field was that much better than everybody else.
But you don't need to be that much better. You just need to be a front runner. I mean, 2019 World Championship final, Wesley Vasquez led it. He wasn't way better. You just need to get one guy in the final who's a front runner. If Marco Arop was in this final, it's a totally different race because that's how he runs. But none of these guys are pure front runners.
I'm surprised. I guess Amos doesn't like the lead. He just likes the fast pace behind the rabbits. I was just surprised when it went 53 for 54, whatever it was. I'm just like, oh man, this isn't good. And I thought somebody would take it, but Montano act like an Olympic final can't go slow. It's not allowed almost. I thought it was kind of funny because then immediately it slows down. You can just tell. So.
Okay. All right,
wait. Weldon doesn't want me to play the audio, but I'm going to play the audio.
This is going to be good audio. He's playing it through his computer, through a headset. Jesus. I'm sure this will work well. While he gets that ready, John, did you guys ask Korir? Now, he was slated to run the 400 here, and he false started. I assume that was intentional.
I asked him this.
Did he have to? Now, is there a rule? I don't think there is a rule. Can't you withdraw from an event? Sorry to cut you off there, John.
Yeah, I'm going to have a tantrum now because you interrupted me. No, I'm just kidding. Robert, can you please mute that? It's very distracting. Anyway, so I asked Korir about it, and at first he said he didn't want to talk about it, and then he said he didn't do it intentionally, but it certainly looked intentional. It was basically like they called them to the set position, and then he got up and did a stride out, and like it certainly looked like what I would do if I was going to intentionally full stop, but he said it wasn't intentional. Anyway, didn't advance to the 400. Then I asked Nicole Jeffrey from World Athletics, who's sort of the head of communications, what's the rule with honest effort and that sort of stuff? Because I feel like, I guess this is my job as a reporter. I should know the rule book. She's basically like, well, it's in the rules. I'll look it up for you. And she never got back to me.
So she doesn't know either.
She was kind of suggesting to me I should look it up in the rules because she didn't give me a definitive answer. But I remember this was a big deal back in 2012 because remember Taufik Makloufi, he ran the 800 and the 1500 there. And he looked great in the 1500 rounds. And then he runs the 800 prelims and basically drops out or like runs really, really slowly. And people were like, he should be DQ'd for not following the honest effort rule. And then he got like some note from an Algerian team doctor saying he's actually injured. And that was why, he was so injured that he could come out and dominate the 1500 final later. So I believe the honest effort rule was in effect in 2012. I'm not sure if it is now. I don't really care. Like, I don't care that Korir full started that race. That shouldn't be like, even if he did intentionally full start it, I don't care. He won the fucking 800. Sorry for the language there. I don't have an issue with it, but I'm still not certain what the rule is.
Every golf broadcast has like a rules expert, and I kind of laugh. Like, how often do you need a rules expert? So maybe our podcast needs a rules expert. Where's intern Carl? Or we're accepting permissions. You'll just sit here and we have a rules question. We'll pipe you in.
All right, I'm not going to play the audio because Weldon's right. It won't sound well. I'll link to it in the show notes. We'll link to people who want to watch the race. I can link to the YouTube NBC broadcast if you've got a VPN or if you're in the U.S.
People know where to watch the race. NBCOlympics.com has most of the races usually if you're in America, so that's helpful, or you have a VPN. And the other thing, you can get a 2-week trial of YouTube TV for free. And you can record everything. So that's another option. Although this morning session was on Peacock, so I take it back. It wouldn't have helped you at all. You can watch it after it airs on NBC tonight.
How jaded am I now? Like whenever I see I'm actually looking at YouTube, NBC Olympics or whatever, and I guess we were in the mix zones. I didn't really see what happened, but Katarina Thompson-Johnson or Johnson-Thompson or whatever.
Wait. At gunpoint, Robert, which order is it? Is it Thompson-Johnson or Johnson-Thompson?
Johnson-Thompson.
All right, you got it right. There we go.
She apparently like blew out her Achilles and then hobbled across the line, and they had a wheelchair out there. I mean, I thought it was cool, but this is sick. This is how I'm getting old in life. Whenever someone does that now, I'm like, oh, they're doing that for the endorsements.
Terrible human being. Terrible human being. I mean, that was like an iconic Olympic moment when we were growing up.
That's what I said. Back then, we knew it was pure. Now you have to question everything. All right. So what else happened tonight? What do we have to get looking forward to? Since this is our weekly podcast and some of these people are not listening every day. Folks, if you're not listening every day, that's on you. Go to letsrun.com/subscribe. I can't possibly recap an entire 5 or 6 days of the Olympics in an hour and a half show.
We had one of the greatest races in the history of the sport this morning. We kind of need to talk about that one, right?
No. I think we should maybe boycott this race. This is what we're going to
Well, sexism. You're going to get canceled. We went all out with the men's 400 hurdles world record, but it happens again in the women's race. Robert says he wants to boycott the race.
I'm not trying to boycott the race. I'm trying to prove a point here. We can't call one. We called yesterday in the U.S. They're 2 days apart, but for us, it was yesterday's men's 400 race. Is this the greatest track race in the history of track? And then we wake up 24 hours later, and the women's 400 hurdles was almost exactly the same as the men's 400 hurdles. 2 people broke the old world record. A third person almost broke it. And then the places, 4 through 8 weren't quite as good as the men's. But the Muhammad versus Sydney McLaughlin lived up to the hype. I mean, these women, the last 4 times they've raced in a global final, they've produced a world record.
Championship final.
Yeah.
Like USA's or
a global final. John, no one considers a Diamond League to be a global final.
I don't consider a United States Championship to be a global final because it's
limited
a global
only final.
To American
Excuse me.
athletes.
Well, fair enough. I see what you're saying. We're both right. We're both wrong.
But I'm more right.
Anyways, 4 world records in a row. Like if our sport was like the NBA or the NFL, this would be like Brady versus Mahomes or something incredible. So what a race. They ran amazing. But when we've seen the same thing the night before, it does lose some of its luster. And people are like, well, it's just these people are pushing each other and it's the perfect environment. And I'm like, you know what? It's starting to remind me of the marathon. Like somebody would run an incredible time and you could come up with reasons for it. And then it happens in the next marathon and then the next and the next. And then finally we find it's the shoes. So not just the shoes, but there was an amazing article, I think, in the Guardian or the Telegraph about the guy from Mondo has admitted. He's like, look, we think this track is 1% to 2% faster than other tracks. John did the research, did the math for the 400 hurdles, and so your stat was 1%, right? How much is 1% of a
in the 400 meter hurdles?
It's just 0.4 of a second, right?
No, well, the previous world record was 51.9, so 1% of that is 0.519 of a second. And the world record today was lowered by Sydney McLaughlin by 0.44 of a second. It's pretty interesting. Since Muhammad broke the world record for the first time at the 2019 U.S. Championships. And it's come down in total between Muhammad and McLaughlin. Both have broken the world record twice. It's come down total of 88 hundredths of a second. And half of that total was today. It improved by 0.44 of a second from 51.90 to 51.46. And then McLaughlin second. She was also well under the previous world record. And Femke Bol third. She was under the world record as of 6 weeks ago. So terrific race. This one, I guess, the time wasn't shocking just because I think we all kind of knew after what they've been doing against each other in previous finals and after what we saw in the men's race yesterday, that there was going to probably take a world record and probably significantly under the world record to win the race. But the most interesting thing about this, compared to what made this, in one way at least, a better race than the men's race, is that this one was, the outcome was in doubt,
with 3 people there coming off the final 100, basically.
Yeah, McLaughlin was still behind entering the final hurdle, and it wasn't until after coming across the final hurdle that she was able to pass and pull away from Muhammad. So that was really exciting, and it was a closer race than the other one.
It was a great race, and talking to them was a lot of fun after the race because, Muhammad, she was proud of the way she ran, obviously, but she said that I was proud of the way I ran, but she's like, everything. I'm a perfectionist. She's like, there's I forgot what she said, kind of hiccups. Basically, the last hurdle, she wasn't happy with the way she ran it. And then McLaughlin says, look, I work on the last 40 all the time. And then Bull was like, I just wanted to go out as hard as I could. I wanted to be with him with 100 meters to go, and I was. She's like, but I didn't have anything left. So they basically, all 3 women were really proud of what they did. And, it was amazing.
I mean, they should be. Dalilah Muhammad, her PR coming in was what? The previous world record, it was 52.0. She runs 51.58. She PRs by half a second. She got beat, but that's a ridiculous. She's 31 years old, and she just ran a human.
Looks like we have some audio problems from Tokyo, but I was going to jump in here anyway. McLaughlin had some comments afterwards, which I thought were interesting about the track. I mean, she totally acknowledged it. The track is definitely different. I definitely say it's a fast track. You can feel the difference. Mondo and everything. I don't really know how to describe it. A lot of people talk about the shoes, but I do think it's just one of those tracks. It gives you that energy right back and pushes you and propels you forward. Definitely felt a difference compared to Eugene. So, when she says that, what are you guys thinking? You guys are back, by the way.
Yeah, I thought it was refreshingly honest. This track, look at the sprint times we've seen in this Olympics and compare it to the sprint times in Rio 5 years ago. Yes, okay, the 400, we had the 400 world record, but the women's 100, 200, Elaine Thompson is running essentially the only person who's ever gone faster is FloJo. Woolholm, we got world record on the 400 hurdles, world record on the 400 hurdles, Olympic record in the 100 hurdles. I mean, this 100 and 200, I thought that the 100 semis, I mean, that was absurd. The third semi in the 100 for the men. The men's 200 times are fairly fast tonight. DeGrasse got a personal best. I mean, I know it's the Olympics. These athletes have peaked for it, but the sprint times have been pretty out of control. So I think it's fine to acknowledge, yes, this is a fast track, perhaps the fastest I've ever raced on. She still ran a freaking amazing race, but to break the world record by that much in both hurdles races, especially when Muhammad and McLaughlin, they've been running in high-stakes races against each other for 3 years now, and they've never smashed the record by as much as they did in this one.
That's true. And it's pretty interesting how much in the span of 24 hours my thinking changed. We had last night's show was huge on Carson Warholm. I mean, everybody were yesterday's afternoon show in the U.S. We were just blown away by that race. We were debating whether it was the greatest race ever. Now, after this one, I'm like, it just sort of diminishes it a little bit. But at the time, Matt Lawton of the Times, Robert, you said he's being interviewed on Norwegian radio because he had suggested the track was fast and people were outraged. And I'm like, I'm not letting people say that at all. And then if you're watching on the show now, I have an article up by Sean Ingle of The Guardian. So you can Google Guardian Tokyo track fast, something like that. And, it's got the designer of the track, Andrea Valori, saying it's worth maybe 1% to 2%. So he's openly admitting that. But it's, at first I thought maybe that was marketing, it's also great marketing. That's why when Nike first said the shoes were 4% better, I didn't believe them. But now the athletes are saying it. You're seeing the times. I think there's something to the track. I hate to be a Debbie Downer.
Well, it doesn't have to be much. I mean, John said 1%. It's 0.4. Even if it's a quarter, I said a quarter second for the shoes, quarter second for this. And maybe it's not the shoes because, by the way, Puma is Warholm. Puma is also DeGrasse. which is interesting. But this is what this reminded me of today. I believe was Bridget Kosgei in the marathon. I think that was the day she ran her 2:14 marathon. Kipchoge runs 1:59:40. And then the very next day, Bridget Kosgei ran 2:14, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, the first time you're like, holy shit. And the second time you're like, wait a minute, this is obvious. Something is going on here. So the track doesn't bother me as much as having secret shoes like Rio 2016. When
here it is, I think it's been a month since Robert brought this race up, which is probably a record since this pod came into existence.
No, when Nike had their male marathoners, and then Shailene Flanagan and Amy Craig.
Shailene Flanagan.
I don't know how to say Shailene. I don't know how to say Simone or Simone Biles. Whatever. We know who we're talking about. They had them wear their super shoes, but they painted them to look like their regular shoes. That is what we call mechanical doping. Here, the track is doped and juiced a little bit, but hey, I like it. I would like to run on a, airy track that feels good, etc. So, by the way, if you want to run on an airy track, you can run on a treadmill this weekend. Race for the red. What's it called? My charity. I've got my charity 5K this week. You can race me. Road. Let me find the URL. You guys keep talking.
If we're doing plugs right now, Robert's clearly tired. He brought his drink Element Tea to Tokyo. It's been keeping him on his game. It's keeping him not tired. At his age, you need it. He loves the stuff. I love the stuff. drinklmnt.com/let's run. Free sample pack. If this wasn't the Tokyo Olympic podcast, I mean, people are emailing me about this stuff. They're like, yeah, great. I really love it. Thank you. So
yeah, I found my URL. Goforthered.org. Goforthered.org. It's either this Saturday or Sunday, August 7th, whatever date that is. I think
it's Saturday, Robert.
You can run a virtual 5K, 10K, bike, whatever. It's a good cause. It's for the Red Cross. I will post my time. Or I could pull an Emmanuel Korir in DNS, but at least the money goes to the Red Cross.
DNF, Robert. That's the difference. Okay. Men's 200-meter final. That was tonight as well. America goes 2-3-4, but the gold, Canada, is Andre de Grasse. I feel happy for the guy. He's as consistent as it comes in these championship finals. So many silver and bronze medals. Finally tonight, he gets the gold. 19.62 national record for Canada. Kenny Bednarek is the silver, 19.68. Noah Lyles, just his third defeat in over 200 meters as a professional athlete. He gets the bronze in 19.74. And, it was interesting. It was close. Bednarek had the lead coming off the turn, and it was him and de Grasse coming down the home straight. De Grasse ends up pulling it out. And then fourth place, Arian Knighton, all of 17 years old. I feel like it's good for de Grasse that he got this gold medal because this event might belong to Arian Knighton for the next decade. But yeah, it was nice to see him get rewarded.
Yeah, it was really interesting here because the guy that Weldon says is always good for the bronze, de Grasse wins it. But the big takeaways I have from this, I'll repeat what I just said. I had it on mute. But the big takeaway here is it was good to see de Grasse win. Weldon always says he's good for the bronze. But the bigger picture is, and I said this, we did a 1-minute Instagram video. Weldon says we got to promote Instagram to try to promote this actual podcast. And somebody was commenting on Instagram was mad because I said, will Noah Lyles ever win an Olympic gold medal? And the answer is probably no after tonight. This was his best chance. This is a guy, again, he's lost 2 races as professional at 200 meters before tonight. He loses the third. We had heard all year his times weren't great. Oh, everything's good. My training's going good. Whatever, I'm going to break out. And he never breaks out. And, maybe being in lane 3 probably didn't help, or lane 4, whatever lane he was in. But he led up in the semi. But he shouldn't even – this guy was so dominant this race, letting up in the semi shouldn't even cost him the heat win. And what I'm thinking now is how many hundreds of thousands of dollars did he lose tonight? As John said it best, if you're an Olympic champion, that's good for life. You can make speeches and whatever, and your contract gets boosted up. He's got an Olympic medal, but could he win in 24? Yes, he could. But Knighton could be the next bull. We don't know. Sometimes the phenoms don't become anything, though. Sometimes they don't become Sidney McLaughlin. By the way, McLaughlin, McLaughlin was like Knighton. We expect her to be great, and she is great. A lot of times it doesn't happen. I mean, look at all the money that ASICS wasted on the Candace Hill or some of these professionals, these studs in high school. But this was pretty big. If it wasn't for COVID, I think Lyles would be an Olympic champion.
He didn't want to engage. I did ask him on that question. He's basically like, look, I don't want to speculate, but I kind of think you're right, Robert. It's interesting. Like, he basically said, he went big this year. He tried for the 100-200 double. And going into the year, I kind of thought he was going to be the favorite for both because there was no Christian Coleman. Gatlin was going to be 39 years old. I give him full credit for trying it. He ran both of the trials, but I also think might have made him more tired. And he said, essentially, he's going to have to talk to his coach, Lance Brauman, and see if this is something he pursues in the future.
But finally, there was an admission there that like maybe they got it wrong. And that's a good point, John, because as a fan, you want people to go for greatness. I want them to try the double. I want World Athletics to make the double doable. And then Lyles, I mean, the 200 was like guaranteed goal. Like, what were the betting odds I bet a year ago? Like, of course this guy was going to win the gold. Now he's only third. He's only the second best American. He's barely better than a 17-year-old. This would have been shocking if you had predicted this a year ago. But he wanted to be an icon. He wanted to be the Bolt. And I mean, NBC was playing it up. When I was at home in the Olympics, all these previews, Washington Post, Xfinity, it was all about Lyles. And now he's third. But you can't fault him for dreaming big. But he said afterwards, maybe he's like, I used to train for the 200 and just occasionally run the 100 at a little speed. He's like, this year I did both. Maybe that's not good for me. And that's a good point because his father was a world class, at least certainly national class, 400-meter runner. Maybe he should go in the other direction, 2-4. Everyone else is coming down nowadays. What? He's not good at the 100.
He doesn't need to move up to the 400. Just stick in the 200.
Well, train for the 4. Why not? I'm just saying maybe he got the training wrong. You think, oh, it's going to come around. I'm going to work at my speed. Sometimes working on your strength is what you need to do.
I mean, he was the Diamond League champion in the 100 meters 2 years ago. So I think that's probably going to be a better event for him than the 400.
But it's weird. It's not like he said he's gotten injured. Like Johan Blake, we know he got injured. Like, why is this guy not being great?
I don't know. It's very well. Running 19.74 in the Olympic final, I know it's faster than what he ran in the world final in 2019. I mean, why is he not being great?
Oh, it is faster? Most faster track, though.
It's just hard to it's hard to be at a very high level year in, year out. Like, you need to be one of the all-time greats. This guy is not a failure for failing to win the Olympic gold medal, but
great point.
He wasn't happy. He thought, he wanted the gold. I totally understand it.
But by the way, he made an amazing point when he met with the media. Amazing point. Because, these people don't really cover track that often, and they think of things like, how many medals did the U.S. team win? What's wrong with the team structure? I'm like, we've never had a team structure. It's all about people going to college or in their own pro groups, and they just win medals. It's just like capitalism. It's like people in their own self-interest win enough medals, and America kicks ass in track and field. It's not like we have a national coach that guides them like in some of these other countries. And we just have a lot of talent in this country and motivated people. But the reporters now, they're looking for the story, and the story is, it's kind of like the women's soccer story. Like the U.S. women's, I forgot, I said this in one of the press conferences, the U.S. women have already won 70% of the medals. I don't know if that's in the Olympics or just track and field, but the women are leading the way, particularly in track as well, I think. But the U.S. men right now are shut out in terms of gold medals. And there's really not a good step forward. We're going to win the shot put, but that's a field medal.
So, yeah, I looked at this, Robert, because it's very interesting to consider what's left. And shot put, U.S. is definitely favored in that with Krauser. Men's 4x4, they'll be the favorites. They're not a total lock, but I expect them to win that. Men's 4x1, you would think they're also favorites there, but you never know. It's the 4x1. When was the last time the U.S. won the 4x1 at the Olympics? I mean, I think 2000 maybe?
I don't know, but Kenny Bednarek wants to run it, but he admitted today he's never practiced it with the team.
Yeah,
and this was a guy that was a 2.4 guy in college. So I'm wondering if he's ever run a 4x1, probably in high school.
He was 4th at the Olympic trials in the 100 meters, though. I would think he would be on that team.
Well, I know, but running a 4x4 is a hell of a lot different than running a 4x1 and getting a stick around.
That's true. All right, so yeah, last Olympic gold for the U.S. in the men's 4x1 was 2000. So here are the finals that are left to be competed in the men's track and field. Here are the gold medals that are available, essentially. USA is 0 for 6 so far in men's track events. We've got the 400. They've got a shot there with Michael Norman, but I would say that Stephen Gardner is the favorite. We've got the 1500. Cole Hawker and Matthew Centrowitz.
1-2, baby, 1-2.
They not impossible, but I think unlikely a gold medal there. 5,000. Chilimo's got a shot. That's a pretty open event, I think. 110 hurdles. That's the money event. That is where if they're going to win an individual gold in a running event, it's going to be Grant Holloway tomorrow morning. It's later tonight in the United States.
John, please introduce him properly. Former podcast guest, Grant Holloway.
Yeah. And then marathon, Galen Rupp, not impossible, but unlikely. So, yeah, the U.S., I looked this up, by the way. The U.S. has won at least one gold medal in a men's individual running event in every Olympics that they have competed in. All the way back to 1896, the only one that they didn't win an individual gold medal in a running event on the men's side was 1980, and that was the boycott year. So I expect Grant Holloway will do it tomorrow and keep the streak alive. But if he doesn't, it's going to be very interesting watching the remaining events because I think it is possible the U.S. gets shut out.
And then when they get shut out, people say, the U.S. track is in terrible position. So they asked Noah Lyles, hey, what do you think about the U.S. Sprint Corps? But they didn't give him any stats. He's like, I think it's kick-ass. I think it's amazing. And I think the reporter was stunned. And then he had the stats. He's like, look, I'm a 19.5 guy. We've got a 17-year-old that's a 19.8 guy. Kenny's run 19.7.
19.6 tonight, actually. 19.68.
What?
Yeah. To take the silver medal.
Oh, so I shouldn't be that upset. And this was pretty fast that Noah didn't win it.
Yeah.
So he's like, look, we've got some good guys.
1%, though. 1%, guys. So while you guys have been chatting away the last 10 minutes, I was reading the, what's up with Noah Lyles thread on Let's Run. And I just love forums. I think you find some interesting information. There was a Sports Illustrated article, which we can link to the thread and or the article afterwards. And it's by, we'll find who it's by in a second, Michael Rosenberg. And it talked about how Noah Lyles, he got on antidepressants. He was depressed last year. His mom saw him. He got on Zoloft. And then he said he couldn't get pumped up for races. And one thing I've noticed is he looks bulkier. And people are like, antidepressants can cause you to bulk up. But he got off the antidepressants this spring. So that's an interesting scenario. I don't know if he looks bigger to me. And I think at some point as you get older, most people put on weight. But you look at Knighton, he looks like a bolt. Lyles used to be much, much more svelte to me. Now he looks big.
Well,
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
That's a good point. I had not thought about what we didn't have. We should have asked questions like that. We didn't ask, but yes, he does look different. I've thought that recently his interviews seem weird. I didn't know about the mental health. I've forgotten about that mental health thing. So that's kind of interesting on that front. By the way, let's talk about Knighton. I've never seen anyone who just got 5th in the Olympics at age 17 or 4th in the Olympics that upset. Like he was like devastated. And like, what are you going to do? People thought he'd be happy. He's like, I'm going to remember this for the rest of my career. And blah, blah. I mean, he was like,
that was crazy, right? He's like, I'm going to remember this feeling. And we're like, dude, you just got 4th in the Olympics. He's about to enter his senior year of high school. He's like, Olympic medal. That was always the goal. This was always the goal from the start of the year. And I'm just like, holy crap.
We're like, since when? We're like, since when? He's like, start of the year. We're like, start of the year? You thought you were going to get an Olympic medal at 17? Like, is he the youngest Olympian by far? He has to be.
He's the youngest U.S. Olympian since Jim Ryan in 1964. I don't know about the entire games. I can't imagine there are many athletes younger than 17 competing at this Olympics.
Is anyone else really pumped the next Olympics is 3 years away?
Yes, it's great. I'm so excited.
It's so much better because I'm like, oh, wow. Because think about that. Like, Lyles might have been your Olympic champion last year in the 100 and the 200. I mean, there's so much hype around this guy. Robert said it cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions. If he pulls off a double or, gets to 200 and gets to 100,
Oh, I'm already thinking about the 100 because that's what Bolt was. Bolt was this 200-meter phenom, and then we're like, well, if he's so good at the 200, why doesn't he run the 100? And then suddenly he's the best ever at the 100. So could Knighton do the same thing? I mean, that's a lot to ask, but I wouldn't be. He's already run pretty fast in the 100, like 10:09 or something, right?
And
I'm just highlighting, by the way, those of you on the video show. I'm highlighting my favorite comments on the video show.
Well, I have a question about the hurdles. So, the run out after the last hurdle is more space, right? There's more space between the last hurdle and the finish than between the normal hurdles.
I think so, yeah.
Why? No. I think they should change it up. Give people like the little better chance. They should put a hurdle right on the finish.
Oh, could you imagine that? Some of the finish line photos you get if the
right.
Wait, well,
some people might just plow through it.
This could be the greatest idea in the history of track and field.
Right? I never thought about it. Just put one right on the finish, or maybe I think 3 feet before the finish.
No, even better. Y'all know this, right?
So some people can just plow through it. Maybe it'd be quicker just to plow through. There'd be some theory.
Isn't there a rule you're not allowed to intentionally knock over the hurdles like that or something?
But y'all know that the hurdles used to be back in the day, it was like steeple hurdles. They didn't tip over. That would be better. Sprint hurdles that didn't tip over. You'd have serious injuries. By the way, a few things. One, I'm just thinking random things in my head. Why the 800 is the best event track? Why? Because the tactics totally change everything. It's like football, American football. The tactics. You run that again, I don't think we have the same winner.
I agree.
And someone else has made up a great point here.
Please don't talk about that Simpson to the steeple take. I hope that's not the one you're talking about.
What? Connor Slythe on YouTube has said, all I need is Roger to offer to coach Evan Jager. I forgot about this. On the podcast earlier this year, I said, Evan, if you don't win a medal this year, you need to get a new coach. And I think it's pretty self-evident. He doesn't even make the team under Jerry.
I just want to make the following observation. I watched several steeplechase races in Tokyo here with Robert, the heats and the finals. Robert, one of the comments he made is, I don't understand how they hurdle. Another one, he was asking me about the splits. This doesn't sound like some coaching genius.
No, I was asking you if I could use your watch to take splits because I know I know how to make an 850 steeple time. And what I was asking about the hurdling is it's like Dobek. You don't coach that. You don't coach Dobek's instincts in the 800. This guy has never run the event better in his life. I mean, he's never run the event in his life, and he's got amazing tactics. It's the same thing with the steeple. You see which kids in the team are crazy and are athletic and want to do it, and you put them in it. Then you can refine it a little bit with a hurdle coach. But you watch those guys, it's just amazing to me. I could not be running in that pack and then just jump over. Everyone else jumps, so you just decide to jump. That would freak me out. But people have no problem. So, wow, former employee 1.1, Emery Mort has got a great take on low Lyles. Antidepressant SSRI withdrawal can also be a long and difficult process, including metabolism. That's a good point. I mean, it's like, do you want to be healthy in life, but then not run as well? It's very fascinating here with no Lyles.
All right.
I think. Sorry, John. I think it is interesting that we're coming back to the mental health with the Simone Biles Olympics and everything. It's kind of interesting we came back to that. But someone is here talking about, they say that Lyles' intro was over the top. What was his intro when he came out? Did you guys see it?
But I feel he does this before every race. He just screamed he's like, ah! I have no problem with that. He did that before he ran 19.5. That's an absurd take.
But I feel I don't know, maybe at some point for Bolt it becomes a bit too, but I feel like for Lyles, he's trying now sometimes. It just doesn't seem natural, he's supposed to do stuff. And that's sometimes what I wonder, even with Simone Biles. Social media, it's just a different environment. I think a lot of these relatively young stars, they just don't know how to cope with it. And I just think when you talk to college administrators these days, they say, what's your number one problem on campuses? And they say mental health. It's just, the only thing that's really changed in the last 20 years is social media.
Well, Noah Lyles ran his best race of the year tonight in the Olympic final. I don't think mental health had any.
He did?
Yes, he did. He ran tied his season's best. This one was into a slight headwind versus the trials, though. He ran fine based on what he's run this year. Now, you can go into, I don't know, did mental health have something to do with him not being as good this year as he was in 2019? Maybe, but I don't think anything he did. He performed to the best of his ability tonight.
Yeah, no, I commend him. Like, and he obviously had these issues. Talked about them openly. Went out there and was willing to fail. So, or succeed, however you want to put it. But it really is going to be interesting going forward because this guy, I thought he may never lose a 200 like for 10 years.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Take this, what is it called? The 360-degree view. You back up. We would have thought a year ago this guy would definitely at least win one gold, if not two, and be a multi-big star. And now he's kind of like, who is this guy? I thought the intro was great. I like to see him that pumped. And I thought that he said he ran a great turn. He had, I think at one point on the graphic, he had the top speed, but for some reason he wasn't gaining on people.
Yeah, it's weird. His best part of the race is usually he can maintain his speed better. Usually it's the last 100. Didn't have it tonight, and Grasse did. Credit to him. All right, shall we move on to the 1500 prelims? This was the most insane 1500 prelim I've ever seen.
Prelim?
The semifinals, sorry. There is a difference. Anyway, women's 1500 semis. First heat, Gabriella Debus-Stafford takes it out very quickly. Then Nozomi Tanaka, the Japanese record holder, takes the lead second lap. She keeps it fairly quick. But then Faith Kipyeagon, just even though the pace is already fast, she just casually closes in 60 seconds for the last lap. She runs 3:56 in a semifinal. In the history of the Olympics, no one had ever broken 4 in a 1500 semifinal. She runs 3:56. Then Ferwani Gebrezibeh, wasn't her last name Hailu a few weeks ago? I feel like we just call her Ferwani Hailu. It's easier. Gabriella Debus-Stafford, she runs 3:58. Jessica Hull, Australian record, 3:58. Tanaka, 3:59, Japanese record. And then Ellie Purrier, who has run 3:58. She ran that at the U.S. Olympic trials. I thought a fast race would suit her. She can only manage 4:01. She still gets into the final on time, but I'd be lying if I go going into this Olympics. I thought Ellie Purrier medal contender in the 1500. Now, especially with Hassan and Kipyeagon in the field, I think this is going to be a fast final. And I thought she could run 3:55, but now I'm not so sure after tonight.
I was extremely disappointed in Purrier. I mean, she soloed at 3:58 at the trials, and she looked terrible tonight. 4:01 flat. But is that an Olympic record, John? 3:56.8?
I don't think it's an Olympic record because usually they say Olympic record if that's the case. But it is the fastest time ever in a semifinal. I think one of the Eastern Europeans back in the 70s probably ran faster.
Yeah, this was a great race. And I missed it. I ran to the track because I timed everything so I could get there for this race. I missed the first 300 of it. And I look up and I'm like, wow, 62. And it was weird. I was really into the Japanese woman because I was the only member of the Western media to talk to her. She'd run 4:02 in the prelims. I said, is there any chance, do you want to be the first? Her PR was 4:04 coming into the meet. I said, do you want to be the first Japanese woman under 4 flat? She told me, this is shocking. I mean, college Americans do this all the time. She's like, I've never been in a race where it's gone out under 2:10 for the first 800. So I get there, the first quarter is 62. I'm like, they're going to definitely break 2:10. And they slow down. It was like 2:09. And she's like, when I saw the 800 split, I just thought maybe I could do it. And she does do it. But I could not believe that a Japanese 1,500-meter runner destroyed Ellie Purrier by almost 2 seconds. So congrats to Ms. Tanaka. Let's hope this is just a bad day for Miss Purrier St. Pierre of America. But,
and then, the other thing from that heat was Corey McGee got taken out. There was a fall by the Kenyan Winnie Chebet. McGee was right behind, really couldn't do anything about it. She hits the track hard, gets up, still runs 4:10, which, considering a fall, that's not that bad. And she gets advanced to the final, so she will be there. In Heat 2, Heather McLean, the third American. I mean, look, she just got outclassed. Like, it was great for her to make the team. She runs 4:05 here, and the finishes 12th out of 13. I don't think that's anything to be ashamed by. I think it would have been a pretty big surprise. It would have taken a personal best for McLean to make the final. So to even make it to the Olympic semis is good for her. Hassan looked very easy in winning this heat. Laura Muir made it through as well.
Back to Heat 1. What did Purrier say afterwards? I mean, I was shocked by that. And then I was just like, wow, she just doesn't have it. And then Emma Coburn in the steeple final. I was just, Usually the stars are able to bring their game. I didn't know of any injury concerns or anything. It's just very unusual. Even the heat or whatever. Like, I didn't see what the temperature was today because watching on TV, I'm in Connecticut in the summer. It's glorious here. It's been like 75, 80. Oh, hey, speaking of, we may try to do a watch party on Saturday. I need to write the person back. Somebody wrote me out about a watch party in New York City. Anyone want to do a watch party in Connecticut? Fairfield, Connecticut, New York suburbs. I don't know if I can make it into the city that early. Email me, weejo@let'srun.com. But just with the heat or whatever, like, what did Purrier say? I was just shocked. Like, she just didn't have it. I mean, people can have off days, but it's unusual.
I talked to her, and she basically was like, she saw the split for the first 300. It was 46-1. She was like, okay, just hold on. It'll slow down. It did slow down the second lap, but the third lap was fast again. And I think she just thought eventually it would back off a little bit, and it didn't. There was just, it was very fast. And okay.
It was 209 at 800. 209 at 800. This wasn't, I mean, it's really weird because maybe I missed the first lap or I didn't see the split, but I saw the 800 split. I'm like, oh, it's not going that fast.
No, the first lap was fast, and it was 3:56 winning time. I mean, it was a very fast heat. And it was kind of weird to square what she said, though, because she said, she thought it would slow down a bit. So I kind of think part of her was thinking like, oh, she wasn't quite expecting it to stay that fast. But then she also said, I know I can run those times, 3:56, 3:57. So it's just making the right tactical decisions. You learn from experience, and I learned a lot in that race. I should have asked a follow-up what exactly that she learned, because to me, it didn't look like she made any tactical decisions. To me, or any incorrect decisions. To me, it just looked like she couldn't hang with the pace. I think that's the bigger concern. And she said afterwards that, she still thinks she can medal. She's not really worried about tonight. If I were her, I would be a little bit worried, because it didn't look like it was a tactical mistake. It looked like she didn't have the fitness to hang.
And also with the fall, do we know why? So they're judging that Winnie Chibet caused the fall. She did not get put in the final, but Corey McGee did. And
this is what happened. Like, Chibet went down. McGee was the victim of that because Chibet was right in front of her. I'm guessing they're ruling Chibet kind of went down on her own. And this is the weird thing. It's a double standard with this Amos Jewett incident, because Amos was the guy who kind of contacted Jewett, and yet Amos is the guy who advanced to the final. Amos was behind Jewett, but he seemed to be the reason Jewett fell. So I don't know, to bring that back to that. But yeah, McGee basically couldn't do anything. She was directly behind someone who fell, and that's why she went down. So that's why they advanced her.
And someone's got a hot take here in the comments saying that Corey McGee is the best American 15-meter 100 runner this year, medal contender. I 100% disagree. Are you crazy?
What's the evidence? She got totally destroyed in the Olympic trials.
Yeah, I'm like,
meters. What's the evidence for that?
When she went down, she was, very upset after the race. And I thought, oh, wow, this is going to sound a little harsh, but I'm like, oh, that's her easiest way into the final.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, you're totally right, Weldon.
If she was going to be murdered at this final, if she didn't make the final, if she was going to be like executed, if she didn't make the final, I would go in there and purposely fall down and try to hope that I get put in the final. I didn't understand why she was crying. Like, this is how cynical I've become. If I fell,
you honestly don't understand why she was crying after falling at the Olympics.
No, I don't. If I fell, I'm a student of the sport. I'd immediately think, thank God, I'm in the final. This is great. All I got to do is get up and go to the finish line. Now, maybe her only fear was that they'd screw over the Americans. I mean, they screwed over Isaiah Jewett, but everybody else gets into the final if they get knocked over. So I don't know why she was upset about that.
I think that's what we need. It needs to be like soccer. When you fall, you need to roll around and writhe in pain for a bit and then get up and hobble in.
But okay, let's go through. If we're talking about great YouTube comments that are bad ones, Paul Kemp has a good point here on Facebook. Stafford looks like a bronze possibility. Looked great and eased off. Gabrielle Dubois Stafford of Canada is who we're talking about. And as good as Courtney Frerichs looked, and as good as Woody Kincaid looked, and Grant Fisher has looked, Jerry Schumacher may have gotten this right. These girls have not been running great early in the season, a lot of them on the Bowerman Track Club. Maybe he works them so hard they're backing off, and it's paying off. So if she does medal, we're going to be bowing down to Jerry. about that. Some people are wondering where they can see these interviews. You're not allowed to see these interviews. I can't even play the audio of these interviews. At one point, I had these audio to show to the VIP subscribers. Weldon said I would be kicked out of the Olympic press zone if I did that. Another great post here.
Wait,
unrelated
you know who Paul
running.
Kemp is, Robert? He did the Nike documentary, Nike's Big Bet.
Okay.
One
more thing about Stafford. I talked to the sister, his younger sister, Lucia Stafford. She ran a PR today, 4:02, just missed the final, and was like, yeah, I'm pretty pumped. If you told me I'd be upset that I didn't make the final in the Olympics, I think she PR'd 2 days in a row here. So congrats to her. But Thomas Lester with the post of the night. This is brilliant. I don't know if we have any shoes we can give you. I don't want to give Thomas a pair of on shoes because Weldon still hasn't given me a pair, and I've got my big virtual race. If I had their super shoe, I could probably break 7 minutes per mile for 5K. Anyways, the cell phone was the greatest and worst invention of all time. Well done, well done.
That's just a general comment, or because like somebody was looking at their phone and I'm really confused. What's going on?
Seems like a total
here?
non sequitur, and Robert offered no.
No, we're talking about the social media and these kids and whatever. The athletes that are smart.
These kids.
Ellie Purrier said she said it was just too much, and she got off social media because everyone's so excited about the Olympics. It sounds like a lot of them, like Sydney McLaughlin's, like I've gotten off. I don't pay attention to that as much as I used to. I'm focused on my relationship with God.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's got to be like Let's Run. It still pisses me off when people call me an MFer or something, but I'm used to it. So the pros who are on Let's Run, reading the nasty comments about them are actually better for social media. Who knows?
Okay.
Who knows?
What do we expect in the women's 1500 final here? Someone wants to know what should be happening. One thing is for certain: the final Kipyeagon will be pushing the pace, and Hassan will be in the back. So this is from Jonathan on YouTube. I tried to ask Laura Moore what type of pace do you want. And the Brits, they have their media handlers, and the media handler always tries to act like they're important. I hate the media handlers that do this. They're like, they only let you ask 90 seconds worth of questions. Like, we've got to get her out of here. And then like some people will just let you ask like 10 minutes worth of questions. But it's the Brits and what other countries just try to act like their job's that important. But I asked Laura, this is a pretty innocent question. What type of pace would you like? Race would you like? I gotta keep that close to the vest, and she ran off. It wasn't bad, but I was gonna ask: is there any chance that Muir and Kipyeagon get together? Because Hassan she goes straight to the back like Laura Muir. I mean, like Mo Farah always did. She better not try that in the final. Like, if they push the pace from the front, do you really want to be that far back? So
I agree. At the bell, she can't be spotting them too much. Maybe she can, but that's one way she loses. I think she could lose the race to Kipyeagon regardless, even if they're together at the bell. But if she spots her 10 yards at the finish, she'll probably for sure lose. She's got to improve her tactics. The 10K, 5K, she's just been better than everybody else. It almost didn't matter where she put herself. But today she was way back. She moves up to, I think, 9th at the bell. Kind of boxed in, still gets out of it, still kicks to the win.
Now, in the last Olympics, though, didn't she? I mean, we thought she was going to go in the back. Did she just take it from the front and crush everybody? How did she run 3:51?
Yes, that was a front run effort by Stefan Hassan.
So we can't say. I don't think she's going to go to the back. I think she goes to the back in these races just because she's trying to conserve energy.
It's going to be very interesting to see. I expect a fast race. I'm going to put it out there right now. I wouldn't be totally surprised if the world record falls. And it's actually ridiculous to think of given Stefan Hassan's workload in this Olympics, but it might not be Stefan Hassan breaking the world record. It might be Faith Kipyeagon. But those two are total studs. I mean, Kipyeagon just ran 3:56 in a semi and made it look easy. And she said, I asked her what kind of race she thought the final would be. And she's like, well, I kind of think it'll be fast, but then I don't really care. Whatever kind of race it is, I'm going to be ready for. So who knows? But if one of those two is pushing the pace, or if the Ethiopian Frerichs Kipyeagon, I'm sorry if I'm butchering her name again. If one of them is pushing the pace, I mean, low 350s, 349, I don't think it's out of the question.
So here's an interesting question from the comments. Do you guys think Muir, she's run 156 this year. Do you think she thinks, kicker's race, I'm good?
I hope
do
not.
You know what the PRs are for Kipyeagon and Hassan? They've also run 156.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Kipyeagon,
for whatever reason.
Actually,
no, they haven't.
Faith Kipyeagon has not run 156, but she won a Diamond League earlier this year in the 800. And I guess Muir did as well. But look, I've watched Kipyeagon in championship finals, and I trust most of you guys have as well. She has a better kick than Laura Muir. It's that simple.
No, I think Laura Muir should won a time trial.
Yeah, but I think that's probably her best option as well.
John,
be in trouble against the three, against Hassan, Gebresegier, and Kipyeagon.
I mean, if the world record falls, that means we almost certainly see a 349, which is crazy. I don't think once you started going there, I'm like, yeah, we're going to see a 340. I mean, the world record's 350.07. That's crazy.
Well,
but also, John, if a dude ran to say 331 and did it easy, you think, oh, they're going to run 325 in their next race out. They're completely different ball games.
I mean, yeah, but if that person had already run 327 earlier this year, I'd be more inclined to think it's possible. Like, Kipyeagon ran 351 in Monaco and missed the world record by 1 second. Is it going to be a shock to me if a month later she runs 1 second faster? Not a total shock based on how good she's looked.
Steven Smith's got a good comment because I'm like, wait, Kipyeagon's closed really fast. She closed in 157.2 in 2016, and she's better now. I mean, there's just no way around it. She is better. So who knows? Maybe we will see a 3-4 something for the women. That would be nuts. Just the pace has to be so quick for that to happen. I don't think so, but low 350s.
Well, who's going to set the pace? Let's try to think about how we think this race is going to go.
That's the question.
Muir's been working a lot because on her, I mean, she's run a ton of 800s. I can't believe she ran that 156 because I kept waiting for her to bust out. She kept running 158, 158, 158, 158, and she finally ran 156 and won Monaco. Hassan has a 156 PR from like several years ago, which is weird because I do think of someone was telling me here, like, oh, Kipyeagon's got a better kick. I said, well, how do we know that? Because I said Hassan's got a better 800 PR. He didn't believe me, but I'm right. 156 for Hassan, 157 for Kipyeagon. But remember, Kipyeagon was trying to break the 1,000 world record last year and got pretty close to it. So it's going to be. I can't wait.
Somebody said Tanaka will set the pace. I think someone will set the pace the first 400. Although today went out really quick, the first 400, and it wasn't Tanaka. I think if it's not being pushed by 400,
by the way,
we'll probably start pushing it.
I don't know what time Australia. They're probably not up because for the live show, it's the same time as here, basically. But we do have a lot of Australian VIP supporting club members, and John makes fun of me for talking to the national records holders. But Jessica Hull, who had never broken 4, the former Oregon star, she said she talked to Coach Pete Joy, and he's like, "I think you're in 357 shape. 358 and 359 never need to know you. Why don't you skip that?" Well, she got halfway there. She skipped the 359s and ran 358 national record, taking it back from Lyndon Hall. And I asked Lyndon, I said, well, Lyndon, you've made the Olympic final on the one hand. That's the good news. The bad news is you've lost your national record. She's like, yeah, it's a little bit bittersweet. And she was pretty happy to be in the final. But she's had it twice, and now Hull's had it twice. She's like, yeah, I realized with 200, I was warming up I was in the warm-up area and, the call room. By the way, if you haven't read Jonathan Gault's piece on the call room, Google call room, Jonathan Gault. It's a great piece we had up a couple of weeks ago. And she's like, I realized that unless Jessica just totally tied up the last 200, my record was gone. And it is 358.81.
All right. Well, then it's 2:30 a.m. in Tokyo right now. Do we have anything else that we want to discuss before putting a bow on this one?
Listener audio threads of the week. John, we're just getting going. We're doing a 3-hour podcast today.
Oh, my God.
Okay. Real quick, because this really is more just a daily podcast. I'm actually trying to think, because usually I'll produce it, take some stuff out, but I got to push this out for supporting club members who probably want it right away.
Don't edit it, folks. If you want to recap of the whole Olympics, again, join the supporters club, letsrun.com/subscribe. Real quick, what do we have ahead tomorrow? We've got 110 for hurdles, which actually is tonight for you guys in the U.S. at 10:50. It's 11:55 here, so it's 10:55 in the States. I went the wrong way earlier in the show. 10:55. Grant Holloway goes for history.
World record? Could we see a world record?
He looked poor today, 13:13, but yeah,
Didn't look
we definitely could see it. Men's 1,500 semis. Can't wait for that though. But no distance finals at all that day here in Tokyo.
And the 400 final.
Can Michael Norman get it together? Michael Norman, though, is reminding me, I don't predict the gold there, but why? Although Wright Benjamin ran so well as training partner, so maybe it's possible, but Norman's reminding me of Lyles. I keep hearing, I've been doing all the training, everything's going fine, and then there's just no bust-out race. So, although we would have thought that about Andre de Grasse. I mean, he ran the same as he always does in the 100, and he did bust out in the 200. So, that's interesting. And then, we've got, I just can't wait for these races, though. A crazy men's 5,000 final is going to be on there. Could Justin Knight, Canada, go 1-2 in the 5,000? But how crazy would that be? Women's 1,500 final.
So Justin Knight's talking about winning, and someone said here they could bet him for 100-1. Are you guys crazy? You think Justin Knight's going to win the 5K? The 5K is very weak, though. Weak. I mean, well, I don't know if it's weak or what, but one Kenyan made it, one Ethiopian, right? I mean, they aren't any good. How? Also, think about this. Edward Chesrick, what the hell happened? The Kenyan team is terrible, and he got drilled by these guys. Is he not used to racing in altitude? Like, it's just amazing. I think a couple big pictures things we're going to talk about when we're done. It's like, what has happened to Kenyan? Well, they did great today in the 800, but longer distance running in Kenya has just fallen off the map. Maybe it's really just 5K running, 10K.
No,
Can't remember how.
They only got the bronze in the steeple. The 10K, they got shot out of the medals. I mean, that's still amazing at the marathon, but at 1,500, they'll probably win the 1,500. But the steeple, 5K, and 10K, weak spots right now for Kenya.
I think some of these people super bullish on Justin Knight. I think that's just, I don't know. It was like if a lot of Americans can relate to him, maybe they're Canadian. I feel like it's just a little homerism. Maybe I'm wrong. I think he could prove me wrong, but a lot of people I've seen it. I'm like, wow, am I missing something? I'm just not expecting. I expect Mohamed to be the first Canadian.
I think there are about 8 guys in the medal mix in the 5K, and I think he's one of them. I wouldn't be shocked by a medal. I think it's probably top 5 or 6 is more likely, but he looked pretty good. He's run 3:33 and 12:51 this year. I mean, that's kind of the times you kind of have to run to medal. So
12:51. Can we? Well, Kenya does have like 12:53, 12:55. Guys, can we just acknowledge that 12:51 isn't what it used to be? I mean, that's crazy. Couture's going to win.
I mean, the 5K final, it's going to be interesting because Kiplino and Cheptegei are both in here. And do they try to push the pace?
I feel like that's in their best interests. I mean, Cheptegei closed pretty fast in that 10K final, but if I were them, I would work together. The problem is it's going to be hot as hell. I mean, it's just very difficult to push really, make it really fast. When's the final? So the final is Friday night. The high in Tokyo on Friday is 93 degrees. So it's probably going to be 80s with humidity by the time they're running, even though it's at 9 p.m. It's just really, we saw in the 10K, Cheptegei is not 100%. He's kind of banged up, and it's going to be hot. He didn't want to push the pace in the 10K, even though that was their plan. They might just say the same thing. The Ugandans, they might want to do it on paper, but when they get on the track and they're like, it's pretty miserable. I'm not going to do this.
Okay, wait. I'm going to show my ignorance. Justin Knight ran at 12:51. Okay. I'd forgotten that one. I'm like, he doesn't have the wheel thrown, these guys.
Yeah, what place did he get in that? I forgot about that race.
That was 5th. But, wow. Okay,
well, that's the thing I don't understand is how in the hell does he get 5th in that race? Who are the 4 guys that beat him, and where are they? I don't understand how the Kenyans and Ethiopians can go over to the Diamond League and run like 12:50, 12:48 or 12:50 and just suck at the championships.
Kenyans, there were no Kenyans ahead of him in that race. The winner was Ingebrigtsen, who was running the 1,500 only. Then there was Hagos Gebrawet, who is not running this race.
Who's not running this race. I mean, I'm like, how did Ethiopia screw it up? Ethiopia actually didn't pick their team this year. They just let the results stand for themselves. I mean, Wale was kind of forced. They got a huge break.
Katia beat him. Katia's in the 5K. Mohamed beat him. Mohamed's in the 5K. So
there it is, John C. Human computer. He could not see the screen, and I'm pulling up the results right now. Ingebrigtsen won, Gebrewett second, Mohamed third in 1250, Korir 1250, Justin Knight 1251.93. So he was, a decent ways back, but he was ahead of Cheptegei.
But Cheptegei, it concerns me that Cheptegei says he's been hurt, but I don't see how he wins the 5,000. But he did win the Diamond League. Could he possibly gap everybody mid-race like he did the 1 year in the Diamond League? I don't think they'll let him go, though.
But here's why he could win is Barrega. If Barrega was in this race, he'd be the favorite, right?
Oh, my gosh.
And he kind of closed on Barrega at the end and kicked pretty well in the 10K final. So could Cheptegei win? I think it's possible, but I also think this sets up pretty well for a guy who we've seen close very well in championship finals, and that's Paul Chelimo.
It's interesting. If Ethiopia had Barrega and Edris in there, I think they'd get 2 medals. Neither one of them's in this race, and they're training right now. So it's very difficult. And this is what's going to happen, though. I've just realized this, unless they're idiots. And again, they very well could be idiots. First of all, we act like the field's not that loaded. We have the world record holder. We're complaining about all the guys that aren't in the field. We have a 12:35 guy, 12:47, 12:48. I know super shoes. But we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys with PRs under 13 minutes. But do you guys realize there's a third Kenyan in there named Oscar Chelimo? Why in God's name doesn't he just set the pace for the Ugandans? And just make this a pure time
because
draw?
Stephen Kisa tried it in the 10K final.
You mean the third Ugandan?
Oscar Chelimo set the pace for the other guys.
Apparently he's Jacob Kiplimo's brother. We need to do some confirmation on this, but this is what I've heard.
I would like to see them rock this race. I forgot who I picked, but John, again, if you're a shoe company,
you didn't pick Katia, did you?
If you're a shoe company and you need some help or coaching, first of all, why do you hire failed coaches to coach your team? It doesn't make any sense. But I can consult or coach your team. John, can you text Mr. Reuter in Uganda and tell him to have the third guy take it out for the first 2 guys? That's what needs to happen here.
All right, the American chances. What do you guys think?
I think they could
1, 2.
I think they could get a medal. I think America will get a medal. I think Chelimo will medal. And Kincaid and Fisher, this is exactly what they want. Like a slow, humid conditions, it comes down to a kick. One thing I know that those 2 guys can do, they can kick. So I think that really helps them much better than this being some 1250 death march.
Particularly if these other guys go for the win. A Cheptegei goes for the win, a Kiplimo goes for the win. Again, when you're running for the win, you run differently than if you're running for a bronze.
So on the screen, I've pulled up the DraftKings betting odds. Mohamed Korir is your favorite, plus 175. Jacob Kiplimo second, plus 225. Cheptegei third, plus 400. So that's a bit of a drop off there. Then Kameli of Kenya. I don't know much about him. Plus 700. Then Mohamed and Chelimo. And then Fisher. And I kind of think Fisher can medal and stuff. Win, plus 2,500. That's a stretch. I mean, Kincaid's much further back, plus 6,500. I think Fisher after his run in the 10K, but like that price of Kincaid, I mean, he's not winning. I'll just say it here and be shocked. I didn't think Courtney Frerichs was going to win the steeple, and she gave me a run for the money today. So thank you, Courtney. Thank you for making me believe. Thank you, Karsten Warholm. Sydney, it's not your fault. You didn't surprise me. Everybody just ran so fast before you. But like that's why we love the sport. Just some of the moments that just remind us like just the beauty of what we do. So
wow. Post of the night. Rose Runner is a very good YouTube listener. I assume Rose Runner is a woman. I don't know why. Rose Runner, if you're the woman, you might be the best poster in Let's Run. Or if you're a man, but always good insight. If Cole Hawker was in the 5K, he would just chill, hug the rail, then close hard for a medal.
All right, guys. I hear a lot of silence. I think that means it's time to go.
People want to know if we interviewed Emma for a long time. Emma faced the press, unlike people.
Read our article. It's got all the stuff you could ever want to know about what happened to Coburn.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, the articles are up on Let'sRun.com with quotes.
And we haven't talked about Stefan Hassan's triple because we've been doing a daily podcast. Well, I guess we talked about her 1500, but she could also be in the 10,000. How sick is that?
Yeah, the more I think about it, wow, could she be tired for the 10? I thought she might have been a little tired today. Even if she wins the 15, which I don't think she's going to do, I'm not convinced she wins the 10. But thank you, Stefan Hassan, for attempting this. This is why we love the Olympics.
Yeah, one question here. Someone says Fisher's chances of medaling. I would say almost zero. I mean, I think he's got a shot, but it's very small. But then I meant to ask this question. John doesn't like when I ask this question. Like, who wins in practice? Fisher, Kincaid, or
Ahmed?
Ahmed. I assume everyone assumes Fisher's more talented than Kincaid. But I don't know where Ahmed stacks up. I assume it's Ahmed. I mean, how is Fisher going to beat Chalimo? How is Fisher going to beat Ahmed? Although he did beat Ahmed in the 10K. Cheptegei's been hurt, so that's possible. He's not beating Couture. I don't think he's beating Justin Knight either.
But it's in the realm. I mean, it's not like he's racing. I don't know.
Like, so how is Fisher beating Chalimo? I mean, he almost beat him at the trials if Chalimo didn't drift out to lane 12.
He didn't almost beat him. That was another class. One of them was like an A, and one of them was like a C.
I don't think he was that far behind. He just got 5th in the Olympic 10K. We know he can close pretty well. I don't think it's a huge... Like, Chalimo was only 3rd at the trials in 2016 when he medaled.
I don't agree with this about what he's having. I think Woody's got a good kick. I think he's got a good kick for a bronze, maybe. But first of all, it's hot. It's not. I don't think this is going to be some tactical race where it's just a good kicker. I think it's going to be. There's going to be a big move in this race. It's going to be like Courtney Frerichs in the steeple. There's going to be a big move from home. They're not going to sit around. There's no chance in my mind this race just waits to the last 1200. Someone's going to make it hot at some point, and I'm hoping it's this Ugandan. I am getting tired. What time? Oh my god,
guys! Real quick though, have you guys heard of the Lambda variant? The Lambda variant's now out.
Oh yeah, I mean, you just keep going up. I mean, there's going to be a Zeta variant eventually. Gamma variant, all these things. Just keep getting variants.
We're a little bit jealous. Some of our friends in the press corps are getting out of their 14-day quarantine so they can go to like a restaurant or something.
Oh wow. Yeah, COVID. I heard yesterday it may be going down here, because it spikes everywhere and then peaks back down. Kind of. So hopefully we're there, but then Lambda will take off and we'll be freaking out another month from now. So guys, get some sleep. Get some sushi from 7-Eleven. Stay healthy.
I thought about doing a new segment. I want to come back from the track every night because that would be in the daytime there, right? What should we buy at 7-Eleven?
Robert got a corn dog tonight.
How was $1. The convenience stores here are absolutely amazing. There's a what's it called? There's a Japanese word for the convenience store, and there's a podcast the New York Times is highlighting. Guys just talking about like what's available in the convenience store. It's pretty amazing.
All right. Sayonara from Tokyo.
Why aren't we giving credit for Grant Fisher?
I just did. I just said the guy could medal. I mean, why he only got 5th in the 10K, and 2 of the guys who beat him are in the race coming up, in the 5K. So that's why I'm not giving him credit. I mean, it's going to be tough to medal. He ran well in the 10K.
All right, guys. I'm signing this podcast off.
Well, then people need to know how to access the supporters called podcasts. Email WeldonJohnson@Let'sRun.com. WeldonJohnson@Let'sRun.com. He'll tell you how to get to the supporting podcast.
And remember, drinkLMNT.com/Let'sRun.